Marco, wonderful to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Kathy, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Your mission is all about maximizing peak performance through inner peace. It's something that deeply resonates with me. That's why I'm very excited to dive into today's topic. The first question is, you talk about Zentrepreneur, so entrepreneurs that are feeling Zen. How would you define that? And what do you think it takes to go from being a busy, hustling entrepreneur to being a more Zen-like entrepreneur?
Oh, there's so many ways to go there. So when I started off and I created Zentrepreneur now always 3 years ago, well, good 3 years ago already, I it was all about the mission of getting entrepreneurs ready to see that they are there to create what they are there for, based on who they are and not based on anything coming from outside. And the Zen came in because, well, it all goes through being Zen. I'm not a Zen Buddhist and I will never be. But it's all about the word, which is really being centered. And so intra, and entrepreneur was actually the way I wanted to go. That's where the name came from when I started off.
Interesting. And what do you feel are some of the tools people can use to be a little more zen and centered?
So let's start at the end. I love to say to my customers or to my coaches very often when they are um, telling me all how things are not working out, even so they use so many tools. I say, meditate more. Because in the end, but I really start with the end because that's not for everybody and not at every stage of your evolution. But that's where it goes. It's deepening your own space, and through that getting into a state of being more relaxed in spite of all adversity coming up and so on. And so, okay, we started with the end. Let's go to the beginning. The beginning is about awareness. Be aware that you're stressed. Be aware that you got triggered. Not even changing it, because very often that's not what it is about. If we already know, that's where we can already, well, we can pinpoint it. And then we can say, I want that, or I don't want that. And we can start. That's the first tool. And it's always the first tool. I always say everything starts and ends with awareness of self.
Yes. I was just thinking about my case. So I shared just before that I hosted this workshop in Swedish, and it was the first time me doing it in this foreign language. Now I meditate every single day, have a streak of over 1,000 days on Insight Timer. I am highly aware of my state all the time, and it was intense in the last 2 days. So I'm thinking I'm probably not the only person listening to this who meditates regularly, has high awareness of this state. What do you recommend to change your state? And I'll just share that what I did do was breathe, did breathing exercises, the square, 4 in, hold, 4 out, hold, and 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, and positive visualization of the event. But at the end, what really helped me was when I actually delivered it for my Swedish teacher and it went okay, and then I could relax. And I'm thinking, well, sometimes we don't have that in life. Sometimes maybe a founder is listening to this and they're going to deliver a super important pitch to a really big investor. And maybe they don't have that training opportunity like I had with my Swedish teacher. And maybe they meditate, maybe they do the breathing exercises, and maybe they, have the clear purpose, tangible purpose. And so they have all these things in place, and yet they can maybe still feel a high level of stress. Now you see where this is coming. What else would you recommend those people? Because I do have to say that although I managed in the end to come back to Zen and centered, which where I am most of the time, took a little more effort than usual.
So there's one thing I would like to say before is that it's about, as you say, it's about being aware. And when we are on this journey of awareness, well, literally, we are seeing more. So when we are stressed out of our mind, that is still not as worse as it was when we're not aware. We just didn't know. So we are totally underperforming. And we see, when we look back at moments where we are not, where we did not being on this awareness streak or on this meditation streak of 1,000 days, you literally see that that at that time we were like, shit, what did I do? What did I say? Wow, how was I triggered by that? And so on. It's like we see all that. So we have to give ourselves credit already for what we already achieved, because it is powerful and it is so much better than it ever was. We just don't see it like that because we are in this awareness loop. we see it all the time. So it has, in a sense, it can be it can feel like worse, but it is better. But to what else can you do, to answer your question? What else can you do? I love to work with mantras, affirmations, and create affirmations for yourself. Uh, Simple ones. So the ones out of the book is I am good enough. I can do that. I think, but create your own. So when I talk about affirmations, I always recommend to not take the ones out of the book. Take the ones which are resonating with you, because it is your affirmation. It needs to resonate with you. You need to feel it. Sit yourself down. Think about how you think normally, and then create another one. Create one which is empowering you. And for me, when I started off my journey as a yeah as a coach and everything, and I let everything go of what I did before, it was stressing me out. You cannot imagine. I thought everything is, and I couldn't do it differently. And I had this one mantra which just brought me through it. And I don't use it so much anymore because I don't need it so much anymore. But it was, I walk the path my soul has chosen. And that mantra was just so resonating. I made tens and tens of kilometers of hikes just repeating this. And so when we are in front of a very, very stressing or a very challenging environment, we need to find this kind of of mantra. So for some, it is a very powering up mantra. For some, it is very soothing. So be careful about that. Some people need the Tony Robbins style of mantras, and that's fine. But some people need just to be in their calm, and that's good too. It's not about being exalted all the time. It's about being precise. It means when I do mantras now, so it really always turns around. I am focused. I am clear. It's like this kind of things, because I can go on tangents. You will see that still today. and so for me, it's like, okay, I focus my thoughts. I focus my words. For example,
Yes, yes. I was thinking that I did two rehearsals with my Swedish teacher, and the first one I did was a few weeks ago when I'd only just prepared my PowerPoint in Swedish, and I started sharing my screen, doing the PowerPoint, and all I could hear in my head was, I can't do this. Why did I think I could do it? I can't do this. I can't. And I felt totally stuck and totally, there were the first few minutes where I was just sort of struggling. I still then, spoke the whole 20, 30 minutes, but it was with a real, like a lot of resistance. And then yesterday, I shifted just before the Swedish class, and I thought, I can do this. I
mhm.
speak the language. I've done many workshops before. Just focus. All I need is to be present, just like with all the other workshops, just fully conscious, focused, present. I can do it. And then that was my mantra. And then during the Swedish class, it went well. This morning, it went well. So it's so interesting that what we say really impacts our behavior, which is what you're talking about now.
Before this kind of podcasts, I was always freaking out. So it's like, oh shit, what will I say, and so on. And today, it's not that I still apprehend it. There's still excitement, and that's really good because it it keeps you on track. But I literally don't care what you ask me, because I will just answer, and I have no clue what I answer now, because I know that what's coming out of that mouth has to become at that moment out of that mouth. Point. So it's like that's a mouth that's not such a sophisticated mantra as I walk the path my soul has chosen, but it is a mantra which works, and which just it's really what resonates for you. And so that's what the power of mantras lie for me, or for affirmations lies really, they have to resonate with our way of thinking, our way of our cultural approach, and so on. The words need to be ours.
I will add this to my toolbox. The breathing, visualizing it going well, preparing, obviously. That's kind of a no-brainer. But then to manage the state. Yes, the mantra. And also what I've seen with time is the more you do, obviously, uncomfortable things, the greater your confidence get. And most of the times I'm fairly comfortable before a workshop. Obviously, this was a first milestone in Swedish. So the next time I deliver in Swedish, I won't be half as anxious. It's always the same. It's just like if it's the first time someone's being interviewed on a podcast, nervous. After the 10th time, it's like you said, maybe a bit of excitement, but not half the amount of nerves. It's the discomfort. Interesting. I think one of the things that comes to mind when you're talking about this is the path that your soul has chosen is it makes me think about Taoism. And recently I've been reading a lot about Taoism and trying to go with the flow of life. It worked pretty well until yesterday when I got nervous about the workshop. But until then, I really felt this like letting go and surrendering and non-resistance. So I was curious to hear your thoughts on maybe Taoism or go with the flow of life and Wu Wei, and how we can do that and how we can let go of the obstacles and the things that block us on this path.
And it's a little anecdote. When years ago, I'm on my development path since a long time. Sometimes more, sometimes less conscious. And one moment in time, I got a book called from Bert Hellinger. I don't know if you know Bert Hellinger. It's about family constellation, and he talks about the river, that we're all sitting in a canoe and we are driving down the river, and that, well, we are avoiding obstacles, but we are riding down the river. And I read that and I was so angry on him. I put the book away. I said, who are you telling me I am the master of my life? You give me my pedal. I pedal up as long as it's... And no, actually I did. For 20 years. Almost killed me. So the question is, what do you want? Do you want to resist the water running? Or you just want to go with the flow? And that is very difficult concept for entrepreneurs. I work a lot with entrepreneurs who are like, I am the master of my universe. I can handle everything. Yes and no. Depends on what universe we're talking about. So if it is your own internal universe, absolutely. If it is the external universe, no, not at all. So it is really important that we let go, that we accept reality as it is. We let go. And so often when we talk about that, and when I talk to people, they say, yeah, but I am not letting go. I'm not surrendering. Oh, and then I hear them saying, Winston Churchill, we will never surrender. Yeah, well, that's another surrendering. Huh? And the Second World War is over. So it's not about surrendering to somebody else, but it's surrendering to your own suffering. Just letting it go. It's how it is. It's how it is. And then things are opening up. Then you see something you didn't see of yourself. You didn't see of yourself before. So it is that logic we need to hone. We need to hone that acceptance and that surrendering. Doing that is a challenge. And it goes a lot through introspection, looking at things, looking back and forth. It goes a lot through forgiving yourself, having compassion with yourself, because yeah, how fucked up was I? Sorry for the F word. Was I when I was running all these companies and I thought I know it all, I can do it all, and anyhow nobody can handle and nobody can be better or doing it different. I am the one. No, well, no. Let's just go. Let's just go. And then things are opening up. And it happens. That's actually coming back to maximize peak performance through inner peace. That's where this inner peace takes its incredible power for peak performance. Because as soon as you let go, then you get new input and you create new inspiration in yourself. As long as you're holding on to your mind, it's simple. You hold on, you resist. Your mind is thinking about what you resist. And I challenge everybody listening to that. Think about a moment where you hold on to something and tell me, how creative were you when you hold on to that? This. Why? Because your mind was there. Your mind was, yeah, how can I need to do these numbers. I need to convince this. I need to raise that money. That doesn't mean that you will not raise your money. But if you let go of that, if you detach yourself from that logic, I know a little bit more in Zen philosophy. If you detach yourself from that, that doesn't mean that you will not strive for it. It means that you are not attached to that outcome. And if you are able to do that, then you will have the space in your head for peak performance. So then you see new stuff. And you didn't see that before because your mind is driving you nuts. So everybody has that.
It makes me think of Living Untethered by Michael Singer. He talks a lot about surrendering and letting go, and we cling to it. I see you smile. Ah, love Michael Singer.
Ah, I love Michael Singer.
What's not to love, right? I was reading his book in repeat. And so the combination of reading that book and the Taoist book was really a surrender, let go, let go. And it's true what you said. We're not surrendering to an external person or an external situation, even with the rendering to the resistance that we feel in certain situations, because once you let go of that resistance, then you can make a wise decision as to say yes, to say no, to implement something or not, but you can think a little more clearly when you let go of the resistance, like the one I'm feeling now towards the rain. I'm like, people listening will enjoy the sound of the rain. And so
Nobody hears it.
I was like, perfect timing. This is literally the only time I've done a podcast interview where we can hear the sound of rain, just when I'm talking about the importance of surrendering and letting go. I think it's quite amusing. So yes, I think the what you were saying earlier about entrepreneurs and this need for control, it makes me think of one of the latest books I read, The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. And they talk first we're in a place of victimhood, then we're in a place of ownership, and that's only 5% of leaders. So that was kind of scary. And then from there, there's that third level that they talk about, which is going through you. And that's when you're going with the path. But I think it's quite hard for people if they haven't sort of felt or experimented it to know what that means or implies. What would you recommend for people if they think, okay, I like this idea of surrendering and letting go of resistance, but they don't really know what it means? I remember hearing Michael Singer on Tony Robbins' podcast saying, all you need to do is feel your blockages and let go during the day. And I'm like, yeah, how? Just feel it in your body, just let it go. And I'm thinking, yeah, sometimes I feel the blockages and the triggers. And then, but how do you let it go? Right?
It comes back to two things and to my favorite one, which is start with the right question at the beginning. Who am I? And start with that. And it's not a question like we have a mentally beautiful answer to it, but ask that question because behind there are answers you didn't get before. Don't ask you the question right away, why am I here? What do I want to do? Because if I ask that question, or why do I want to do? Because then you go directly in the external, looking at somebody else doing something. Like, oh yeah, that's cool. But then you are not doing something based on yourself, maybe yes, maybe no. And then the second thing is really about awareness again. It's about awareness of self, seeing it, adapting it all the time. And life is a journey. Life is not a one point, one ramp. You do this, you do that, and then you're rich, you're enlightened, you're beautiful, you are whatever. That's not how it works. Life is always going on. Life is always in an infinity loop. And and if you get into that logic of accepting actually that life is, that I don't have to make it happen now, in 2 months or in 6 months, but I'm on a journey, and on that journey I know who I am. I deepen that knowledge, and automatically I start to act in that logic all the time. So I always create based on that, not create based on the input. And honestly, I did that literally wrong till 2017, because I always wanted to please somebody. First it was my dad, then actually he told me, how amazing what you did. You would have never have done that when you would stayed at our family company. I said, shit, now he took my drive. Then it was cars, and it was money. So it was always something else. It was always something else external of me. The moment I started to ask this question, who am I? That's where it became very deep. Now, the answer on that question was a different one than 2000, is different one today than it was 2017. Fundamentally, it's the same. It just deepens. I didn't talk about spirituality in 2017. I thought everybody will laugh at my nose at that moment. Now I don't care if they laugh, because I know that's the only way how we can stay relevant as human beings. But that's evolution. That's deepening that part of me, and then you can be on that evolution.
Do you see a lot of resistance to spirituality? Do you see people that don't necessarily know what you mean by inner peace, or don't understand the concept of spirituality, or don't see how it's linked to maximizing peak performance?
Yes, absolutely. So much misconception, because this term is hijacked by every religion on this planet as being their sole property. and then it's if there is an opening, I always ask a few questions. First I say, okay, there was this book from Greg Braden, the God Code, where he says, first there was spirituality, then there was religion. And sounds simple, sounds stupid. It's very, very profound, because first we ask the question, who am I? Where do I come from? Where do I go? Why am I here? And then we looked up and I said, well, nobody can really answer, or looked around, nobody can really answer to that. So we looked up. That's how it worked. And then we had something, and we started to think about something bigger than ourselves. And then that was, now there are different ways to say it. Let me say it in a nice way. Then that was instrumentalized to create ways how to live together. And then for some part hijacked to exert power on masses. But it was, at the beginning, it was actually very positive, done just to bring people together, and make this even more strong for them, so that they can answer these questions for themselves. And if people get that, to get back to your question, if people get that understanding, then we have incredibly open conversations. And I have conversations with people from every religion up to now, like from Sufi masters to people in the Kabbalah, from Jewish Kabbalah to regular Muslims to Catholics to and you know what? They all want the same: happiness and love. Not difficult. So I don't care about religion. I respect religion and everybody who has a faith and who uses that to deepen his own happiness and faith. Imagine how powerful it is if you use your business, your entrepreneurial logic to be happy, not to roll over the next competitor, just to be happy, because you will not be happy when you roll over him. But if you will be happy if you create a win-win, if you create something for your customer and so on. And it's not more than that. It can go deeper, but that's where it starts. And that's where spiritual intelligence comes in, because it is beyond ourselves. It's even beyond our group. It's about faith. In these times, what do we know what happens in 6 months? What do we know what happens? It's like, today we need faith. It's the only way. There is We cannot cognitively think through what is ahead of us now. Nobody can. Look at all these think tanks. Oh, we're out there. I still read a lot of news. Maybe one day I will stop with that, but I still do that. And then use it. This think tank about war prediction tells this. This think tank tells this. This. Nobody knows anything. So what can I as an entrepreneur do right now? I can excel at being myself and having faith that I get on and that I create and that I can thrive. That's what I can do. There's nothing more. And through that you spiritualize your whole enterprise. And spiritualizing doesn't mean you have to sit together in the morning and pray. Can be, doesn't have to. Absolutely not. Everybody is, again, that's religion. That's a ritual. Everybody has its rituals. I have my rituals. I don't teach my customers, my coachees, my ritual. It doesn't matter. It's mine. Although many reasons, that's why where I tend to. But I only tend to that because it is giving me this deepening of myself. So in a company, if you give that space for everybody to find that space for himself, that's where you create peak performance, because everybody will deliver deeper, way better, because they are coming back to that. They are living in belonging because they know that here they can express themselves. And again, it's not about the ritual. It's about this understanding that we are here on this planet to ever deepen our happiness and our love. Not difficult. But if you talk about that, sometimes people tell you, oh, cannot talk about that. Yeah, it's about business. Okay, I can. Sorry, I stopped there. I was a little bit on the monologue there. Sorry for that.
That's fine. Interesting. I think, yes, this idea that we can use our business to fulfill our own happiness and love. And sometimes people get caught up in either the competition or security and wanting more financial gain so they can feel more certain, or significance, having great achievements so they can be more significant. And they forget that their own business and their own lives can just support them in having this sense of happiness and joy and fulfillment. And for me, a lot of it came down to, and this is why I say my mission is to empower people to lead with alignment, purpose, and joy. But the alignment part is when you learn to say no to things that aren't aligned with your authentic self, your path, your happiness, and you start to say yes when it's only a hell yes, when it's only that calling from within that, amazing, and it makes you sort of want to feel like jumping up and down, right? That's the sort of yes we want to say yes to. When you start doing that, then your business can help you and support you to feel happiness and a peace and joy. But for a lot of people, because of fear and doubts and maybe society and all these different things happening, they struggle to hear their authentic self. So what tools do you, I keep asking you what tools, that's not really what I mean. What I mean is, what's your perspective on supporting people to lead more from a place of authenticity and hearing themselves more clearly?
So again, different ways to go there. The first one would be understanding that in a time of artificial intelligence, we need to go deeper for ourselves. So cognitive intelligence is the same than artificial intelligence, and we are ahead of, or maybe already in, the biggest identity crisis humanity ever saw. Because for the last millennium, we were taught that our cognitive intelligence is the only thing which matters. Let's say since the Age of Enlightenment, so since the 16th, 17th century. And so understanding that we can tap into our emotional intelligence and our spiritual intelligence and create our aligned intelligence is what gives us this possibility to understand why that's so important for us. And I think AI is what it is. Some say we will die on it. Some say we are doomed. Some say it's the best thing ever happening. What I can assure you is that this is the biggest identity crisis humanity ever will have and ever had, because we're putting into question this capacity. We always say we are so much better because we can resonate. Well, yeah, well, machine does it better with more data, it's faster. So, so going down to that, it's we have no other way as humanity to go deep, or we are doomed. Simple. That's my very deep belief. Now, how can we address that? I think it's the combination between honing our insights and deepening our dynamics. So what I mean by that is asking ourselves these questions: who am I? Where do I come from? I said them before. And always, and in that, and deepening our access to spirituality. What is it? Read and see what resonates for oneself. Being in that, I call this the spiritual insights, being in the structural insights, understand how our mind works, how our body works, brain, heart, gut coherency, understanding, hearing, listening to that body. A lot starting to be in emotional intelligence, being aware of emotions, being aware of how we think, what are the triggers. And then we can actually easily get into this, what I call the inner dynamics. So being in a mindset, and creating a mindset. Mindset. Some words of this mindset. So states of minds can be joy, forgiveness, gratitude. I have more coming up now, and holding that forgiveness. If we are able to forgive ourselves, because we always talk about forgiveness. Oh, I cannot forgive somebody else. Well, start already forgiving yourself for all the things you are bashing yourself up for. If you are able to do that, amazing. And then we have this possibility of essence, be what I call the essence, which is introspection, willpower, discipline, and action. And if we can work every day on that, it's like, okay, introspection, going deep, understanding, and then setting up the willpower and making it happen. But then we need the discipline so that we can enhance this willpower all the time. So we need to have this double back and forth. And it's all about action. Do what has to be done. And then there are things we can do, which are breathing. We talked about them before, affirmation, mantra, and whatnot. And if we get into these logics, that's how we deepen ourselves and how we deepen our own understanding of ourselves. But not only like cognitively, because we still are not at the cognitive, because that's the UX/UA layer. I talked at the cognitive layer, introspection, in impact, and inspiration. We're not there, but there we already influence everything. But it's not like I was there. I thought it's all about getting rid of the mind. Let me go into my heart. When I was on my shamanic way, it was all in the heart. I tell you, it's like, and it's beautiful. It's actually amazing. I had the most incredible experiences on that path. The challenge is you're going out of them, then it's all gone. So you have to, they always talk about in shamanism, they all talk about integrating. Integrating means bringing it back to your head so that this one gets it. Because there is no disconnection, or there cannot be disconnection. That's why it's an aligned intelligence.
Yes, in Taoism they sort of said the mind needs to be the observation tower, and we need to think from the heart. I thought, oh, this is an interesting concept, but making them going back and forth, understanding it intellectually, but not only relying on the prefrontal cortex to make decisions and to guide our life, but actually listening to what is aligned and in tune. So I think it's a combination of both. We need to reassure sometimes the prefrontal cortex so we haven't just gone mad, like you said, using the mantra, reminding us why we're doing what we're doing or which decisions we've taken. But I think it's more that way around. You listen with the heart and you make the decisions daily, regularly, and then you confirm it in the prefrontal cortex. Whereas what I feel often happens in today's society when we're confused or stressed is that we make the decision from the mind and thinking rationally, and then we try and convince the heart, yeah, it'll be good. Yes, but you will like it. It'll be fine. You should still enjoy it. Yeah, you'll probably like it more than you think. And we try and confirm and reassure the heart. That doesn't work. So we need to, listen from the heart and then reassure the prefrontal cortex that it'll be okay and that there's a reason we're feeling this. But I feel this is something that takes a bit of practice. But once you start doing it, you feel so much better in life, which is what you found ever since you changed your path, I imagine.
In that sense, the heart is a no BS organ. The heart is the head, the mind is totally BS organ. It's all about BS. It's all about look around the world. Look around how much BS we are seeing every single day. How much inefficiency, something. It's all about BS. Art is not BS. Spiritual, there is no BS. If you go there, that's where it becomes serious. Because that's where you are confronted with, yeah, do I really want that? Yeah, well, actually, I want to go there. Well, then I have to do things I would never have seeming them be possible for myself. And in a company, it's the same. It's like you can stay in the BS and in a great financial, great economy, no problem. You just do your BS. I saw so many companies over the last 30 years who were thriving like crazy, because just and it was all BS. But yeah, well, the whole thing was BS, and it was just, and it's all great. Look at the 2008 crisis. It's exactly that. And but when that time is over, and we are in these totally unpredictable times we are now, BS becomes the biggest risk ever because the BS is gone tomorrow, maybe. So it might be there if you're thinking about it. And that's to the board administrators listening to this. If you think about keeping on to the BS because it is just how we always did things, yeah, okay, I think you are jeopardizing the future of your organization. That happens every day. I talk to people in boards, and especially in boards, talking about spirituality is like you almost get shot out of the room when you even open your mouth. And it's a shame because they are driving strategy of companies, the largest companies of this world. I think cannot say the name of the company because it's too confidential, but there's one of the biggest companies in Europe where um, the head of HR, after 2 hours of conversation, there was just about spirituality. Just about spirituality. And then there's nothing in that company. HR, they have 800 people. Imagine how powerful they could be. What is holding them back? The board. So open that bracket. More women in the boards. There is a little bit more heart connectedness, which is so much lacking.
Absolutely. Marco, this has just flown by. We're on to our last few minutes for today's episode. What would you like to leave the audience with? What would be your last note? Aside from letting more women on the board and more openness and spirituality and business in general would be pretty good. That aside, what would you like to leave the listeners with?
Think about it. Think about spiritual intelligence. Ask yourself these 4 questions. Who am I? Where do I come from? Where do I go? Why am I here? Ask themselves. Take a glass of wine tonight and just think about it. And let it sink. Let it sink in. And then think, okay, how can I use this? How can I put that into motion for myself? Then how can I put it into motion for my company? How can that drive my company? If I give a clear higher purpose, for my company? What will that mean? What will that mean for how many people will not be silently quitting my environment, or how many people can I hire who would never have thought I can hire before? And we are back to peak performance. Then we are back to making your company more performant than it ever was. And it's an internal exercise, so nobody can force you to do it. And you can say, Marco, you're full of BS, or you can say, I just look at it. And if I look at it, I might just have an epiphany that that's the way I need to go.
Amazing. So interesting and so valuable to pause and reflect and go a little deeper within ourselves and not just stay on that surface level of everyday life and activities. And I totally share the reasoning and the belief that you have that when we go to that deeper level, we do perform at a higher level also. So peak performance and inner peace directly go together. So 100% aligned with that. Thank you so much for being on the show, Marco, today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Kathy.